5G is what was created by the military in the Middle East. Right after we invaded Iraq, this system was created called the active denial system, where a frequency fence could be created using what looks like a cell tower on a Hummer. And what fence to actually burn the skin of intruders into this region. So first started as an active denial system, ADS, in the military, and then it evolved into the technology used in TSA body scanners. It's this 1 millimeter sized wave. So if I can break down, so the technology that we use for wireless technology, cell phones, smart meters, Wi-Fi, all that, it's on the radio wave frequency. Learn anything about this growing up. So it's understandable that we're in the dark on this issue.
Sure.
Visible soup of radio wave frequencies all around us. We've got AM waves, FM waves, radar, Wi-Fi, cell phone technologies, and what have you. And all of it has to do with this, the differences in all this technology has to do with the wavelength. There's these invisible light waves, okay, so it's just like light, and they're all around us, but we can't see it. So AM waves are all around us, and all these radio waves all travel at the speed of light. You get in size of the wavelength, the shorter distance it can travel. Now, the absolute smallest wavelength on the radio wave spectrum is the 1 millimeter size wave, and that's what the 5G is utilizing this 1 millimeter size wave as a carrier wave to carry data through the air. But it is the carrier wave for 5G, but because of its size, it starts to interact with our cells, our bodies, and it causes all these problems, and we can talk.
Fathers and the people who are running government, they don't have a clue about this.
Well, this is true. They're not educated on the topic. They're not professionals or scientists or researchers. They're random mayors and city council members that just happen to be in that seat at this time, a very pivotal time. And so we're dealing with these local level politicians that are claiming that their hands are tied, that they have to answer to the FCC, and the FCC is saying that local governments cannot take into consideration human health impacts when discussing 5G. It's literally off the table. We're not allowed to talk about it. They don't want to ruffle any feathers or be on national news, so basically they end up backing down.
They caved.
Yeah.
But there are some communities that are standing up. For instance, the city of Brussels has banned 5G. The city of Mill Valley, California has banned 5G from residential areas. But a lot of communities are afraid of the FCC. They don't know what to do. And this spectrum auctioning agency, the FCC, who has no power at all, really, but the local authorities, these mayors and city council members and whatnot, they don't want to stand up to the U.S. government. They'd rather just, push the envelope to the next guy.
Didn't Denmark approve it, and all of a sudden a lot of people are getting sick? And now they've got second thoughts?
There are communities in Europe that are flipping the switch, and birds are dropping dead from the sky, and people are getting ailments and nosebleeds and what have you. Yes, I have been researching in Larkspur, California, where the vice mayor, he stopped the entire meeting and told his account of watching a whole flock of birds drop dead in the neighboring city when they were testing 5G. Well, there was a cell tower, a Sprint small cell tower was put on the grounds of this elementary school. 5 kids and 3 teachers came down with cancer, which the local community attributed to the cell tower being there. They protested, they got the tower removed, and people stopped getting sick.
That's just, I got to tell you.
The technology behind 5G, because the waters are so muddied with the disinformation, and when people are disempowered with disinfo, they can't move forward to act on any of it. If I can break it down just for a minute, earlier I talked about the carrier wave being 1 millimeter in size. Well, to give you a reference, a penny is 1.5 millimeters thick. So we're talking about less than the width of a penny as the carrier wave. And the problem with this carrier wave, it absorbs into everything. It absorbs just under our skin. It bifurcates cells, causing cellular division, causing cancer to breed. It also shows that it causes blood-brain barrier leakage. It causes infertility. The side effects are stacking up, and the local municipalities aren't doing anything about it. So there's blue light diodes. So blue light is essentially a color of light. So on the color spectrum, the rainbow color spectrum that we perceive light, like I said earlier, there's ultraviolet and infrared. It's just outside of our color spectrum, of our visual perspective, and that's based on the size of the wave. So blue light is emitted from our devices, our smartphones, our laptops, even these new street lamps, these LED street lamps. And what this blue light does is it confuses our biological clock because it's the blue light, the properties of the blue light are so close to ultraviolet. Right next to ultraviolet, next to violet on the color spectrum is blue. So blue light will actually confuse our bodies and tell our bodies that we're in bright sunlight. Our bodies think it's high noon, essentially, and it resets our biological clock. So if you're staring at your smartphone or your tablet or something right before bed, or if you're surrounded by EMF radiation, 5G radiation, which is also very similar to blue light because the light waves, essentially EMF is a light wave, the size of the wave, especially with the 5G being a millimeter, it confuses our bodies to thinking we're in bright light and resets our clock. So if we're staring at our phones right before bed, and then we go to sleep and we don't get this restful sleep, we later on learn sides in utility workers. So they did a random case study, sampled a random group of utility workers, followed them, and over 10% during the study committed suicide. And they actually determined that these workers, their biological clocks, their circadian rhythms were being so thrown off by being near these cell towers that they weren't producing melatonin, weren't producing serotonin. They were actually getting literally physically depressed because their body's circadian rhythm, the body's clock was being told that it was high noon all the time.
Well, what's beyond 5G, Matt? What's
their street corner, essentially?
This is dramatic.
Well, they have to consider taking it to their local municipalities, pushing the precautionary principle, and getting their mayor and local government involved because this is the only way we're going to be able to protect our communities.
And your film, Frankenskies, tell us about that.
Frankenskies was released a couple years ago. For anybody that hasn't seen it, it's a very important, informative documentary on weather modification history. It's a chronological timeline starting in the 1920s. Yes, weather modification began being perfected in the 1920s, and there's historical military stock footage to show it. The film goes through the chronology from 1920s to the film release date, which was June 2017. It's on the website, frankenskiesthemovie.com, and for anyone out there, even if you think you know everything about chemtrails or you don't know much about it, it's definitely worth watching. And if you want a DVD or if you want to have a local screening, please contact me, frankenskies@gmail.com.
Are you convinced, Matt, that with these chemtrails there's some kind of weather manipulation going on here?
Definitely, and it's ongoing. Once you see the footage and you realize that this has been perfected over a century, and then you see that literally in the 1970s and 60s that the front page of local newspapers were talking about weather engineering, and then finally it was silenced. And then you look at the programming and the conditioning through all of these different movies. There's a whole list of movies that condition the populace to socially engineer, especially the youth, to keep us, under wraps, thinking that this is not even going on. I'm absolutely convinced, especially extreme weather events, that they're all orchestrated and that they could actually be quelled, but they're not.